My final thought is don't try to pretend to be something you're not. Embrace the best of who you are. Recognize that when you lean into your strengths, your gifts, and your authentic self, you're going to be a whole lot more successful and a whole lot happier in your career, in your personal life over the course of your entire time on this earth. So lean into who you are and power on.
Welcome to Inspired Choice today. I'm your host, Caroline Biesalski, here to bring you authentic stories, surprising lessons, and powerful takeaways to fuel your journey in business and life. In each episode, I'll take you from one inspiring guest to the next, blending their experiences with my expertise to uncover practical strategies you can use right away. Whether you're starting out or stepping up, stay tuned for insights and actionable tips that make a difference. And stick around until the end for a special freebie just for our listeners. Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline and my today's guest is Stacey Chazin, and I'm so happy she said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I am great, Caroline, and I'm so happy you asked. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, and we met on Podmatch, but you are everywhere. I looked it up on LinkedIn, and I want to introduce you, of course, first to the audience. So you are a leadership development coach and proud introvert. You empower fellow introverts to thrive by embracing their unique strength. With extensive corporate and nonprofit experience, you have a master's in organizational development and certification as an MBTI. You have to tell us about that. Practitioner. Yep. You help introverts achieve success through self-acceptance and professional growth. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Stacey Chazin.
Thank you, Caroline.
My first question goes to you. Of course, it is, how did embracing your introverted qualities transform your approach to leadership and success?
Great question. And when I've been telling this story recently, the trajectory of my story, I realize, has been going further and further back in my life to the point where I now realize it kind of started when I was in preschool. So maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I started to hear, which I think many of us do, that having more friends and playing more with other kids, taking part in circle time and having play dates, the more you did that, the better it was. And this was a message that we got, that I heard, and that many of us hear throughout our childhood and into adulthood, that being more social, being more outgoing, having more friends, not sitting at home, networking, all of these things are preferable to the opposite, right? To having maybe a closer knit group of friends, to wanting to play off to the side with one other child, or wanting to work on a project at work with 1 or 2 other people and go deep in your subject area, rather than working with a whole bunch of people on a wide range of things. And I realized as I grew up that what I had an opportunity to take, you mentioned MBTI, which stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Assessment, which I'll tell you about in a moment. I had a chance to take that assessment when I was working for a health policy nonprofit several years ago. And the MBTI basically tells you how you're wired along a few different dimensions. So, and one of those dimensions is introverted or extroverted, which speaks to how you get energy from the world. So introverts tend to get fueled, get more energy when they're working by themselves, when they're working in small groups, and when they have time to recharge in between their interactions with other people, whereas extroverts are fueled more by their engagement with other people and the outside world. So the MBTI at a very high level is how you get energy from the world, how you take in and process information, how you make decisions, and how you like to plan or not plan for different things in your life. So I was working for a number of years in the health policy and public health space, and had the opportunity to start developing some leadership programs for leaders of state agencies working in health policy. And I kind of got bitten by the leadership bug. And as I mentioned, I took this MBTI assessment at work and started to have my eyes open to the fact that we're all wired differently, and no one set of letters from MBTI, one set of preferences is better than the other. And that for my whole life, I've been getting these messages that being introverted was not a good thing. And I needed to try to be more extroverted. And with most things in life, when we try to be something we're not, we usually don't succeed at it. It's a recipe for heartache, for failure. And once I started to see, hey, as an introvert, I have all these strengths, all these gifts that I can put to good use. They're no less or more than the gifts that extroverted people have. Once I started embracing my introversion, I saw that I was able to achieve a lot more, that I wasn't trying to pretend to be something I wasn't. So I wasn't someone, as an example, when I would go to a conference, I felt like I needed to collect 50 business cards to make all these new connections with people. But all that networking drained me, right? That wasn't trying to connect with all those people, was not the way I'm wired to be at my best. So I shifted that and started to, all right, instead of trying to meet 50 people, I'm going to try to meet 3 people and have deeper conversations with them, which are going to be probably going to be a lot more fruitful and are going to last longer, and B, are more aligned with me showing up as my best. So I had these personal learnings, individual learnings, and I started blogging about them. I went back to school. I got a master's in organizational development and leadership. And the more and more I talked to other introverts and I wrote about my experiences, I heard a lot of commonalities that people said, that's exactly how I've been feeling. Or I feel seen when I read what you just wrote. And for me, it was just this call that this is what I'm supposed to be doing at this point in my life. And I decided to become a leadership coach, specifically guiding introverts to figure out how to identify and use their core strengths and gifts, which we call their positive core, is what it's called. Identify that, and then figure out how you can use all those skills, those gifts, to dream and design a future career for yourself that's going to be aligned with the best of who you are and is going to make you the happiest. So that's more than a nutshell, but that's how I got to where I am.
Wow, that was great. So you started to explain it to us when you were in preschool, and then you told us that it is measurable by the MBTI. You put it, we can measure it, and it is, I would say it's like, because you said it's the same, not one side is better than the other. So these are two poles of the same thing, right? And it is measurable, and we don't have to change. We introverts, and you call yourself proud introvert as well. And I love that you took the pressure from people by saying you don't have to make 50 connections or collect 50 business cards from a networking event. You succeed already when you have one. You said set a goal. Your goal was three connections, and then you go deep into that and you have results, amazing results, or relationships as well, business partnerships, whatever, or sales, so to say, business. You go to business, and I love that you lead others to become, let's say, also proud introvert, and how to behave, because there's nothing wrong with introverts. Let's
That's
say
exactly right.
Mhm. Yes. Okay, my next question. Let me see. I'm prepared. What are some common misconceptions about introverts in the workplace, and how can they overcome them?
Oh, great question. There are so many myths that I love to debunk. One of them is that we don't like to work with other people, that we don't like to collaborate, which is not at all true. As I mentioned before, the way we collaborate and the circumstances under which we're likely to be most successful in our collaborations are just different than they are for extroverted people. So, meaning our collaborations are going to be more successful when we have a chance to do them in smaller groups or one-on-one. They're going to be more successful when we have time to prepare for meetings. So, one thing that I share, I have a meetings playbook that I created for introverts. Folks can go to my website. It's ifactorleadership.com, and you can see it there. The meetings, and I'll give it to you to put in the show notes if you'd like. The meetings playbook is essentially a way that you can have your voice heard and your ideas respected when you're in a meeting as an introvert. And that speaks to a lot of preparation, right? Requesting the agenda in advance, jotting down some key points that you want to make about each agenda item ahead of time. That's a great way that you're going to be a better collaborator when you have time to prepare for your collaborative meetings. So that's one thing. Another thing, another myth, and this is one of my favorites to debunk, is that introverts are not good presenters. People think that it means that you don't want to be in front of the room and stand up in front of other people and talk. When in fact, introverts are very well wired to be great presenters. And that's for a number of reasons. One, when you're doing a presentation, you have time to prepare. You're generally not just thrown up there on the fly. So you have time to go deep and prepare, which is one of the ways we shine. We also are very good when it comes to analysis. So when you're preparing for a presentation, you have time to collect data, stories, examples, all these things. We're also very good storytellers, and that's in part because we tend to be prolific readers. So we've developed a good head for narratives. And the last reason I'll share, and this is one of my favorites, is that when you're up on stage presenting, you don't have to make small talk because you're up there, you're behind a podium, or you have your microphone in hand, and maybe people will have a chance to ask questions at the end, but you're not having to make chit chat. That small talk that introverts generally don't like. So we really are good presenters, and many of us enjoy doing it. Some people also think that introverts are not, some people think they're not as smart as extroverts. And the reason this happens is, and I'll say more than 70% of gifted individuals are introverted. So we are pretty darn smart. And one of the reasons that sometimes gets lost is because extroverts tend to prefer to, that expression, to think out loud. So if you're in a meeting and someone asks for ideas, it's the extroverts who are going to be more comfortable and more likely to immediately come up with ideas. They haven't had time to think them through necessarily, but they're out there, they're giving off ideas, whereas introverts are more likely to take their time. They do better, we do better when we have time to think through something, to give it some thought, to look for supporting evidence. And we'll come back with ideas that are just as good, if not better, than what the extroverts offered on the spot. But sometimes that's overlooked, that people equate speed with intelligence or quality of ideas. So those are three big ones.
Oh, it was really big. And what I loved the most was when you talked about the, talking on stage or presenting as well, and that avoids, so to say, the small talk situation. Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And I was thinking about the difference between, when it is healthy, or it is still healthy, it is an introvert behavior versus you have anxiety to go into a meeting situation or a crowded place. Something like that.
But you might do that. You might have that. More than 3/4 of people in the world, regardless of whether they're introverted or extroverted, don't like presenting, or they have anxiety about presenting. But it may have nothing to do with whether you're introverted or extroverted. It's just a different thing. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I try to sort it out now. What is healthy, and how can we change, or how can we prepare? You talked about preparation. So introverts are not so spontaneous. Maybe they can train it, of course. But I think also the to be secure, the security. You have your notes ready, and then I think it's like, yes.
That's right. That's
Mhm.
right.
I like this. And therefore, I prepared another question for you. Yeah, for me in the beginning, so this was the story of this podcast. My idea was I have always the same 4 to 5 questions that I ask everyone. So the answers were different. And now I switched it a little bit. I customized the questions
Good.
to my guest, but therefore I wrote it down. So I prepared. I am the living example for being a prepared, proud introvert. Let's say that. Okay, my next question to you, and we have time to find this. How do you guide introverts to turn their natural strength into powerful leadership assets?
I love that question. So, I work with introverts. One of the ways I work with people is as a coach, and I use a framework that's called appreciative coaching. And appreciative coaching is based in the idea that we all have what's called a positive core, and that's the best of who you are. So I guide my clients. We start off by using this framework. I guide them to identify their positive core. And we do that by, I ask them, I prompt them, I guide them to reflect on some peak experiences they had in their lives, especially their work. So what were some times that you felt like you had a big impact, that you felt fulfilled by your work, that you felt like you were contributing in a way that was significant and that you were recognized for your contributions? And they reflect on these experiences, and I guide them to identify what are some common themes across these experiences, right? So what skills were you able to use? How did you work with other people? What were some strengths that you brought to the table? And through that discussion, we identify what are some commonalities in their answers, and that helps them to identify what their positive core is. Then we take that, and I guide them to come up with some dream for their professional future. And that could be, as not just I want to be successful or I want to make a difference in the world, but something more specific than that. It could be that I want to be an inspiring manager. I want to be a powerful communicator. I want to be recognized as an expert speaker and advocate on a particular topic. So they come up with this aim for themselves, and then I guide them to design a plan for getting there, for achieving that dream. And all of those steps use their strengths. So your plan for getting there, for example, is not going to involve networking with, collecting 50 business cards and adding 50 new people to your LinkedIn profile every week, right? It's going to be doing that in ways that are going to allow you to use your strengths. So it could be that you're an excellent writer, that you're an excellent presenter. Introverts tend to be highly empathetic, so very good at relationship building. So it could be a plan where you set up individual coffees, whether it's on Zoom or in person, to have one-on-one meetings with people to get to know them better and engage them in supporting you toward your dream. And then we talk about how can you sustain what you've achieved? How can you put habits in place? How can you get the support you need? Kind of keep your eye on the prize of this evolving journey you have toward your dream over the course of your career. So it's really something that they can then go back to, use the strategies long after we've stopped working together, which I find exciting because it really, I know for me, and I've heard this from my coaching clients, it really flips the way they think about change and think about their career paths. That it takes away the what do I have to fix, what do I need to get better at, and it simply looks at what am I already great at, what brings me joy and fulfillment, and how do I use those things to get where I want to go in my career. So, which
Yeah,
I just love.
I totally understand. And I was thinking all the time, of course, when you first said, when you talked about the strength, to think about the strength, then I first had in mind, oh, a strength, one of the strengths of introverts is they are good listeners, right?
Yes. That's
But then, yeah.
that's a
Mhm.
great one. And I'm not sure when this episode is going to be coming out, but at the end of October and then again in early January, I'm going to be launching an on-demand course called the Introverts Leadership Formula. And it's a self-paced course that includes group coaching with me and a private coaching call. And the three areas it focuses on are becoming a more powerful communicator, preventing introvert burnout, and how do you make asks? How do you negotiate for raises and promotions in ways that make it really hard for decision makers to say no? And in the module on communication, one of the things I talk about is active listening and how listening is an absolute strength of introverts, right? That we can sit back, we pick up on body language, on nonverbal cues, facial expressions. And because we're sitting back and we're thinking through how we want to contribute, we observe in this way so that when we do speak up, it's a lot more meaningful and it's more likely to be effective because we're tuned into those cues to really recognize how others are feeling or what if they're having an issue with a particular topic or they're more receptive to something else. It helps to guide how we communicate so we can be more effective.
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking when you were talking, yeah, it is when people talk all the time, they don't listen to themselves maybe, and this is where the introvert comes into play, and we help the other
Yeah.
person by reflecting when you work as the coach, for example. And then, yeah, you mentioned your courses. I love your courses you offer. This would be a question as well. So you answered without without me having to ask, so I can ask another thing or other
Yeah.
things as well. So I had in mind, so for me it was a flip already when you talked about setting a goal and then change the approach. You maybe we think we have to do it a certain way or we have to do certain things in order to get there. When we introverts, we observe extroverts getting there easily, but
Mm-hmm.
you turned it around and you said, use your strength and identify your strength and use it, and you get to the same result, so to say. So
Mm-hmm.
it changed my point of view already. So thank you. And I had two things in mind. It is like TEDx talk or something. And in the beginning, before we started the recording, you mentioned already that you advise or you give the advice to your clients to start their own podcast, right?
Well, yeah, so that's an example. So when we talk about communication and when we talk about building your brand as an introverted leader, one of the ways that I advise you can do these things is to find communication channels that are tuned to your introverted strengths. So whether it's writing, creating your own blog and writing posts, or contributing posts to other people's blogs, starting your own podcast, or contributing to others. And one of the reasons I recommend these things is because, like standing up on the stage when you present, you get to prepare, right? You're able to, as the host, you're crafting the questions. I guess you don't always know how the conversation's going to go, but you're guiding the conversation. And it's also it's you and one other person, right? You're not engaged with a whole bunch of people at once. You and your guests, like you and I, have we're connecting on a one-on-one level, and it's very attuned to your introverted strengths. It also lets you to go deep in subject matter areas. So some podcast hosts, they'll talk on a niche topic in their industry, and that's another way that they can demonstrate their expertise, their thought leadership. So yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great way to do it.
Yes, I love it. And yeah, we call it inspired podcast. There is the word in, so from within or the inside, and
Mm-hmm.
you receive inspiration. Of course, I could name it the introvert podcast, but I'm not doing it. So I told you in the beginning it was not my challenge. Yes, sort of challenge to start, because I waited 16 years. So when the first podcast appeared, 2007, I always dreamt about having my own podcast. And yeah,
Oh, I love it.
it is. Yeah. And then I start, because it came by intuition. It was in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. And there was one word podcast, and I followed. And the next day, I recorded my first episode. So, and yeah, and you are now, we are recording episode 413. So I
Look at
I
that.
learned
That's
a lot.
fantastic. Good for
Yeah,
you.
I have to mention it at that point. And yeah, thank you so much. And you talked about goals, helping leaders achieve their goals. What about your goals? Do you set goals or intentions? And what is one of your next projects?
Oh, I love the goals question. So
Mm.
for me, so my goals in my work, right? Or if I can get introverts, the introverts I work with, I teach, I coach, to flip the way that they think about their introversion from here on out, that they recognize it not as a limitation, but as a gift. And they make career decisions, they take career steps that reflect their introversion. I have won in my career, right? That is, to me, that is the goal of my working with others, so that they can flip the way they're thinking, and as a result they'll see that a total change in the way other people respond to them. They'll mirror back when you feel confident in yourself, when you believe that you're a leader, that you're extremely capable, that gets reflected back in how others are going to see you. So they're going to be more likely to get a promotion when they're up for it and they ask for it, a raise, a project they want to work on. So to me, that's a win. And those are the goals for me. And then the second part of your question, oh, what do I have up next? So at the end of October, for the first time, I'm going to be offering my course, The Introverts Leadership Formula. It'll be open for enrollment just for a week, but then it'll open up again in early January. Folks can come to my website, which is ifactorleadership.com, to get more information about that offering, as well as how to work with me as a coach. I would love to hop on a call with folks and do just a free consultation, a free introvert career planning call. If you want to do that with me, I love talking to people about how they can change the narrative in their head. I also offer folks the opportunity to take a Myers-Briggs assessment and then help them figure out what does that mean for how you can best communicate, how you deal with conflict, how you can be a team member, how you can really just soar in your career. So lots of ways to work with me, and come check me out, ifactorleadership.com. And if you go to ifactorgift.com, I have a free download. It's an introverts conference survival guide for some other ways you can go to a conference and not get drained by all the people around the room, to network in ways that are aligned with who you are. And if you visit my website, ifactorleadership.com, you can also download, I have a productivity hacks for introverts. So how you can be more productive in your day with a whole lot less stress, because most workplaces are designed for extroverts, right? We have back-to-back meetings, there are open offices, there are the expectation for a lot of collaboration and networking. So how can you set up structures and daily habits that protect your energy and let you be a lot more productive without feeling stressed out or burnt out? So lots of free things to check out, and I'd love to have a conversation with all you introverts out there. Reach out.
Yes, that's so good. Thank you so much. It's so generous. So please reach out to Stacy and be brave, because you can only win, right? I know how it is. I know in the beginning when I started my journey to speak 3 years ago, then I had a call with someone, and it took me, I don't know, 3 months or or more to book that call, that free call, to explore what's next for me. And then I started to develop my, not my voice, but my curiosity, and and my bravery, or what is it, my courage as
Yeah.
well, to explore things. Thank you so much for our interview. It was a great interview. I learned so much. And now it's time for your last message, your final thoughts to the audience, please.
My final thought is, don't try to pretend to be something you're not. Embrace the best of who you are. Recognize that when you lean into your strengths, your gifts, and your authentic self, you're going to be a whole lot more successful and a whole lot happier in your career, in your personal life over the course of your entire time on this earth. So lean into who you are and power on.
Thank you so much. This was
Great.
great.
Thank you, Caroline. It was great to speak with you.
And see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Inspired Choice today. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey of growth and transformation. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe to stay connected and never miss an episode. And here's something special. Grab your free 20-minute breakthrough session with me. It's designed to help you kickstart or level up your business. Just check out the show notes for more. Until next time, keep making those inspired choices. See you in the next episode.